Did you know? King Henry VIII is famous for his wives, and by 1537 he had had 3. There was Catherine of Aragon, whom he divorced in 1533, in so doing splitting from the Catholic Church. There was Anne Boleyn, who he had executed in 1536, and there was Jane Seymour, who died in 1537, having given birth to his only male heir. The king had been heartbroken, but eventually he was encouraged to get back out there and look for another wife. The name Anne of Cleves came to the fore. She was said to be gentle, virtuous, and docile, qualities fit to be Henry's queen. But the question was, what did she look like? Hans Holbein, one of the greatest portrait painters of the 16th century, was dispatched to capture the likeness of Anne of Cleves and her sister for good measure. Henry asked that he did not flatter or conceal any ugliness of the 2 women. Regarding Anne of Cleves' appearance, the French ambassador had said that she was tall and slim, of middling beauty, and of very assured and resolute countenance. But despite the portraits and the descriptions, King Henry found Anne wanting. He had no desire for her, and thus the marriage was never consummated. Of Jane, Henry said, "She is nothing so fair as she hath been reported." And so perhaps what we have here is a medieval expression of a very modern problem. People's pictures today often lie about their true appearance, and perhaps, whether we or Hans Holbein could see it or not, in Henry's eyes the portrait was an inaccurate representation of Anne of Cleves' true self. Some historians have been happy with that explanation. However, things probably weren't quite so simple. You see, Henry himself had undergone some fairly drastic physical changes over the years, and following the death of Jane Seymour, he wore black for 3 months, and over 3 years gained a lot of weight, developed gout, and also diabetes. Upon meeting Anne of Cleves, he begged his chief minister, Thomas Cromwell, to find a way legally to not have to marry her, but Thomas Cromwell insisted that he did. And so, after 6 months of marriage, in July 1540, Henry divorced Anne of Cleves. She was, however, retained as the king's beloved sister, a member of the royal family and the court. Indeed, after the annulment, supposedly Henry and Anne became very good friends. Henry VIII is famous for his wives, and perhaps infamous for the way that he treated them. But for me, the story of Anne of Cleves somewhat humanizes the man. He was clearly forced into marrying someone who he didn't really want to marry, and whether because of the perils of long-distance dating, or because he simply continued to miss and love his former wife Jane Seymour, the marriage to Anne of Cleves was doomed from the beginning. Indeed, 7 years and 2 more marriages later, upon his death in 1547, King Henry VIII was finally laid to rest next to Jane Seymour in her grave.